Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last currently scheduled interim for COSE. As the working group meeting, it is subject to the note well, as we have been in the past. So just please make note of rules when it comes to contributions if you're going to speak here today at all. Administrivia, so we just went through the note well. Is anyone willing to help take any minutes today? If not, I will. Mostly all we're looking for is action items going forward.
Can probably grab most of it.
Thank you, Jen. And the chairs will help, obviously. For the attendees, we have a section in the minutes, which there's 2 links in the WebEx chat pointing to where they are. If you would please put your, include your name there. This is what will turn into the blue sheets for the meeting. And then, so our agenda today is to go over outstanding feedback for our documents. Charter discussion, and then any other business, including when we meet next. Is there anything we'd want to change on that agenda? All right, taking silence, there's no objections to it. For document feedback, so I'm not sure how many people have had a chance now to read the countersignatures document that Jim had posted a couple weeks ago. But I did see at least Jim posted one note with regards to the some potential conflict with message recovery signatures. Was there any other feedback? I think, Francesca, you mentioned that you may have some.
No, I don't have. Yeah, I haven't had time to go into details for that document.
No worries. Okay, do you want to talk about the message recovery conflicts, or do we? I think Jim summarized it pretty well.
It's really just kind of maybe it will be an issue someplace else. There's no problem here.
And then, for clarification, it's not a problem because there currently are no message recovery signature algorithms.
It's not a problem because you don't want to use message recovery signature algorithms with counter signatures.
Okay. All right.
Why in general is that the case?
If you use a message recovery with counter signature algorithm, you have to validate the counter signature algorithm before you can validate or decrypt whatever it is that was countersigned.
I guess I could maybe imagine environments where that's seen as a feature, but I think in general it would be an anti-feature. Which is why I agree with you that it's not really an issue for now.
Any other comments on counter signatures at this time? Okay, this document does need review. Is anybody, in addition to Michael Richardson, who I see mentioned that he's intending to read it, anybody else willing to read it and provide feedback within the next some period of time? Hmm.
So this is Hank. This is the awkward silence here. While I really would like to do so, and while I really think this should happen, I really also think that I am not capable. That is the reason why I'm speaking up. So a review on an editorial level, of course, sure, but if it's a specific issue, sorry, I do not see myself fit to add something to the discussion that has already been added. That is my problem, personal problem.
Right. Well, thank you for that, Hank. That's worth keeping in mind. I know this chair does intend to read it, just hasn't had the opportunity just yet myself either. I'm going to commit to getting that done within the next week, and then be able to provide some feedback. And I see Francesca's also committing to some period of time. So we'll get those reviews going. With that, I think that's a decent segue into the message recovery. That's our major outstanding issue for RC 8152 bit struct. So for the Jim had posted some updated, had posted a proposed text, Ben had commented, and Jim had an updated text.
Right, Jim's
The
waiting
comment-
for a review from Ben.
Well, you should check your mail then. I posted a new response like 5 minutes ago during the meeting.
Well,
Haven't you seen it yet?
No, it will show up in my mailbox about 20 minutes from now.
Sneak send, okay.
Well, Ben, since you're here, would you mind giving us the TLDR of your update?
Yeah, I think basically it's just fine. There was one proposal that Jim had made that was not in the full length text, and I would accept that proposal. And then I just had a question still about I think it was the application external data, which was a phrase that I didn't quite understand what was supposed to mean.
If you take a look at the structure for anything, all of them support an external data field supplied by the application.
I see. So it's not a term specific to this discussion. It's like a
It's
generic.
not a term specific to discussion, it's a term specific to the document.
That would explain the context that I was missing when I was just looking at the snippet of text.
Okay. Has anybody else had a chance to read through that and have any comments?
Although I guess, sorry to cross the streams, Matt. It looks like maybe we call that externally supplied data in the generic usage and not application external data.
That's quite possible.
I guess I shouldn't put you on the spot, so we can follow up with that over email and return to Matt's question.
Well, my question is if anybody else has comments, and then that's going to lead to another proposal. But let's start with if anybody else has comments. Okay, I'll take the silence as no objections. So I think the chairs would propose that Jim make the updates to the document directly, and then because right now everything I'm reading is Ben's latest comment. It sounds to me more editorial, making sure we're aligned on terms. Right? Any does that sound about right, Ben?
Yes, I think so.
All right, and that should be the last major outstanding issue with the struck documents. We should be able to progress back to a IETF to a last call. Do we want to go through another working group last call, or do we think do we want to go through another working group last call? That's my question.
I'm not sure the change is big enough that we actually need any last calls. And it's probably esoteric enough that we won't get any input.
That is plausible, but I think that the sort of stance in the ISG at the moment has been shaped by some recent remarks and drama in a different working group relating to not doing another last call for a document that spent a couple of years in ISG evaluation and had some arguably substantial changes made and had some new IANA registrations, and the expert that approved the registration then showed up as an author on the document. And so there's maybe some optics considerations in terms of following the process.
Yeah, that does sound a bit squirrely.
Yeah. Ben, is the ISG's current position that we should go through another work? Is your interpretation of that position that we should go through another working group last call, or can we go to another IETF last call?
I don't think that there's a strict requirement to do another working group last call. After all, there's not a strict requirement to do any working group last call. If you, as the chair, have the confidence that there is working group consensus, you can just proceed. And the working group last call is just the conventional way of determining that. But I think we've had pretty good activity from various people in resolving the issues here, so it may not be needed.
Okay. My inclination is to go with is to not do another working group last call. So I think that would mean, given everything said and the feelings with the IESG, it sounds like it would be appropriate to schedule another IETF last call and then proceed back to evaluation.
I think so. So I guess we can sync up with the chairs and Barry and me to figure out who is going to push the buttons to make that happen.
All right. And that's all pending the updates from Jim.
Of course.
All right. Any other comments on our documents? Any documents?
The X509 document is currently an IETF last call.
Right.
So we should expect to start seeing IESG feedback from that in a week or two.
Correct. I think I've read some of the direct reviews with no complaints, with editorial complaints so far.
I don't remember seeing any, but I haven't been paying attention, I guess.
I thought I saw one. Plus, I know Russ posted a comment.
Right, and
yeah.
I saw Russ's comment, and it's much clearer inside of the document than it is the formatted version. But I have made a change for that.
Okay. All right, well, we'll keep an eye on that. Unless there's anything else, we can move on to our next topic. Let me try not to overselect. Okay. Okay, so chartering with all these documents now getting to a point where we're getting them again pushed out, hopefully for the last time. We do need to finish up discussing our charter. What we've seen agreement on in the working group is that we allow, the summary here is we're going to work on certificate compression. And with Mattson's draft as the starting point, and being willing to accept additional algorithms. Again, preferences for things defined by standards by recognized bodies and non-preference for state defined. I think that was some of the summaries that I've read from all the posts over the last several months. Included here is a link to the charter that Jim had posted several months ago. Has anybody had a chance to read through that charter text?
Yes.
Is that John Matson?
That's correct. Yeah.
This is Hank. Yes.
Okay. Any comments on that text that you're willing to share here, or can put the list in the next day or so?
Yeah, I think I have several comments. One comment is that it refers to two outdated drafts that have now been been replaced with a single Matson draft in COSE. So I guess it should be, the charter should be updated to refer to that specific draft.
Okay. Excellent point. Thank you.
Second point is that it currently only refers to, it's very strictly bound to RFC 7925. And as I commented earlier on the list, I think this needs to loosen up a little bit. I think the working group might come to the conclusion that we will not fulfill compression for all certificates that are valid according to the profile. Maybe there are some text encodings and so on that should be skipped. So I would like to formulate it as maybe a subset of RFC 7925. And then also Utah is now working on a 7925 bis kind of document. So any changes in that document to the TLS certificate profile for IoT should also be considered. And then the discussion in Lake and 60 is that the IEEE certificate profile is very important for certain IoT environments inside IETF. So I think the charter, I don't know if we should do that, but I think the charter should open up. So if the COSE working group would like to work on compression also for that, the IEEE certificate profile, it should be possible.
All right. Go ahead. John, were you going to say more?
Let me see. Maybe that was. I think Göran will. There has been several comments about supporting the idea of native on the list, but maybe I think Göran Selander is better to bring that up.
So, hi, John. I'm here.
Yeah.
Sorry for being late. Another appointment was tripping over. So I guess I missed the beginning of the charter discussion, and there was something about why why we should do native certificates, why people like that. So we got input from well, I think it was Henk, it was Lawrence Landblade, and it was others who didn't specifically support the particular format that we were using with. I mean, they were arguing, do we really need to make the most compact version, or can we settle for something which looks more like a CBOR web token? But they were, if I understood right, they were supporting the idea of putting the signature directly on the CBOR structure as an alternative format, which makes sense for devices that can implement CBOR efficiently. Don't need to use AS1 or their encoding otherwise. I think that's up. Maybe others would like to chime in here on the usefulness of this format.
So this is Henk. Is it fine to speak? Is my audio okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So on the moving back a little bit on the topic about RFC 7925, we should be careful here. There has to be a balance between what you can compress and what you exclude of being able to be processed. There are decisions here. Sometimes, for example, I think John highlighted the text characteristics, the text encoding in existing certificates. This can be tricky, and we highlighted that, I think, early on, but probably this is lost in time and space. So not everything is just a string, a lot of string types, and it's awful, and it's esoteric, and it's X509, of course. So you cannot expect anything to be certain in order to recreate canonically an existing certificate via compression in the middle.
Hank, we lost you. Hank, did we lose him?
I think he disconnected.
Okay. Okay. Well, any comments on the native format or releasing?
I have one thing. We will definitely have to change the charter if we do that. And I was going to ask Ben if we need to change the charter to even do the compression. One of the things that I put in the charter originally, where did I put it there?
Sorry, dropping out. I think my Chrome egress has a limited, a finite set of voice over IP packets it can push through web servers. I don't know why. It's weird. Sorry, did I interrupt Jim right now?
Right. One of the paragraphs says key management and binding of keys to identify identities are out of scope for this working group. Is that sentence going to have to be eliminated in order to do any of the certificate work? Question for Ben.
I think that would have to be removed in order to do native certificates. I think it is not problematic for doing translation or compression of X509 certificates into a smaller encoding.
For those proposing native certificate format, how critical is it to have that? Is that something we need to be working on now, or is that something we can start with certificate compression and revisit this going forward?
So this is Hank. Sorry, I'm now interjecting properly to Juran. But there's of course a rather obvious baggage here, because you are going to impose for every constraint device that really has to look at a identity document and not only provide it. You have a double stack feature now. You have to parse the effective compression, of course, in order to create then, and that is effort, the actual certificate and also parse the certificate. So the dual stack always is a little bit problematic. People are wondering, and that is not necessarily starting with CAs, but it is pushed to CAs today. That there's dire need for key reduction, key management reduction, parser overhead, encoding overhead, and so on in IoT, because that is cost. So I would say this is an open discussion, yes, but it should not be excluded from a topic that we want to talk about. So if you're talking about a charter here as a list of topics that we talk about, maybe it should be more explicit about we explore this and we really make sure to listen and to ask in this discussion. And then it should be like a letter. It should be not the goal to set something here, but the goal to understand something here. And that is just Hank's personal point of view.
Just filling in on Hank there, it's definitely, this dual stack is definitely not a very good solution for constraint setting. It's a migration path for not so constrained devices, which could have which could handle the dual encodings. But for the most constrained devices, I think that we really want to have the native form.
So I guess when we're talking about the dual stack, is that in terms of conventional DIR X509 certificates and then the COSE compressed form, those are the two stacks? Or is the second of the two stacks the native certs?
Right, so that wasn't very clear. So what I meant was that you, with compression format, you need to basically decompress before you verify the signature.
Right.
And if you don't, with a native format, you could remain in CBOR, you can do all the parsing. So that's basically whether you need to have only CBOR or CBOR and ASM1.
Okay, I think that was what I thought we were saying, but I just wanted to check.
Sorry. Thanks.
So adding to this, that there are mechanisms in place today that use certificates to store information that are not necessarily only identity based. You all know, I think, that X509 can be used, the document format can be used to store arbitrary data. And people do that a lot. And people create certificates as proofs, as evidence, as tokens, maybe even. That's not a very good thing. They are short-lived, they are complicated, and this is inherited somehow. And I think this inheritance should be somehow grown out at some point because it is costly. And that is the only reason here. So I think people are a little bit worried that we retain legacy here for too long, as is necessary for the domain of application. And we do not want to say that this is unnecessary to do the conversion, do the migration, do the all the standards that facilitate it. It's very, very necessary. And this is, I think, compression first. But in the end, at some point, people hope, I think, that will grow something more streamlined from this in the end.
All right. Thank you all. So what I'm struggling with is what our action to take from this is. Hank or Don or Goran, are one of you or anybody else willing to help propose text that we can discuss around this charter change?
Sure, we could try.
Okay.
So I mean, it's basically it's the last paragraph of the charter, and I think it's more or less the second sentence of the last paragraph that we'd like to perhaps rephrase.
Okay. Because I think that will help us get a better picture around what it is we're going to sign up for.
Okay, so we'll come back with the proposal to the list.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Anything else with regard to the charter that we want to discuss?
Yeah, I have a third proposed change. Maybe we should add that in the certificate compression work, COSE should collaborate and coordinate with the TLS Utah Lake. I wrote down some suggested text for the updated charter and sent it to the list a couple of seconds ago.
Okay.
So I have a question about the charter.
Yes.
What's the timeline here that we want? The goal.
That is a very good question. That was going to be the next question to the working group. So I think what's been holding up the work on this charter so far has just been trying to get through all of the documents we already had. And now that it looks like we may just be through them again. I mean, I think part of this is going to depend on getting the proposed text from John and Goran and company. If you have a potential timeline for that, that would be great. Otherwise, we could talk about another checkpoint to see where we're at, and I would argue 3 or 4 weeks.
I suppose we will have a proposal in a couple of weeks, probably, or even earlier.
Okay, that would be great.
So this is Hank. Of course, so having a proposal early is easy. That's the easy task. So we just write text and push. We click the button, and then there's the IETF meeting upcoming. So when I hear this time frame, and this is independent of the content, actually, this is just my feeling. So are you aiming for IETF to have to weigh this like as a proposal? So I think that is an interesting question from my side. Is the IETF meeting, the virtual meeting, going to be a cornerstone here that kickstarts decision making, or is this not necessarily set as the turning point, so to speak?
Well, historically with this working group this time around, the meetings have been a worthwhile checkpoint to get work progressing, to get work done. So I think given that, it seems reasonable that to have a new charter ready, to have a goal of having the new charter ready to go for additional review by the time of IETF 109 seems reasonable.
Yeah, this is exactly what I heard, and I think that's okay. But I think we have to speak that out loud as a, I don't know, secondary milestone. I don't know. So we have to get our stuff together to be presentable and discussable at the next meeting.
Okay, that's fair.
So question from me. So I got the impression that we should not have a meeting at IETF 109, that we should sort of stick to the virtual interviews. Or did I misunderstand something?
Well, that brings us to some other business. So the chairs have heard grumblings about the next meeting. And so we posed the question of whether we want to have a meeting. And we need to make that decision. We need to make that decision within the next 10 days or so. So I know we've gotten some feedback from Goran and from somebody else about not having, arguing not to try to schedule a meeting during the next, during IETF 109. But it would help to get more feedback on that.
So to give feedback about that, are we planning on having interims bi-weekly or monthly or after that, or what's the other plan?
Well, if we do not meet at IETF 109, having a series of virtual interims, I think having a series of virtual interims will probably be necessary no matter what.
Starting after IETF 109, or because this was, you said this was the last one of this series.
This is the last one currently scheduled. So one of the questions we wanted to ask is when, when
do we restart?
Correct. And I think that will also then help inform whether we have a meeting at 109.
I will go on record as saying, if the reason how come people don't want to have a meeting is because the time is inconvenient, I don't care. I think we should have a meeting anyway. If the reason why we don't need a meeting is because we don't have anything to talk about, that's fine.
My opinion is that it's true that we're doing good progress in the interims, which it makes sense what you said, that the interims could be enough. But on the other hand, I always look at participants and list like how many people are joining these meetings. And I believe that during the IETF week, we get more participants also because there is some, what Carsten calls tourists showing up. So there is that drawback of not scheduling a meeting during the IETF week.
Sure. I just want a couple of clarifications on my part. What I have observed is that we get things done with the meetings. And interim or the broader picture is kind of inconsequential on that part. This working group has been getting things done when we have meetings. So I don't think that's an argument to skip the virtual meeting, face-to-face meeting for interims. And to Francesca's point, looking at our current attendees list, I believe that we get 4 to 5 times more attendance with the IETF aligned meetings than we do with our interims.
Yeah, it's not only, it's because it's the IETF week, so it's easier to find the meetings and to know that something is happening compared to interims, where you have to be aware that interims are happening to be able to participate.
Right.
Exactly. So the scope of the IETF meetings is virtual. The time frame is smaller, and so conflicts are higher, but also meeting number is lower. So this is a weird mix. Nobody really knows how this will work out again, and this is a new experiment. For example, I did not put out COSE as a conflict, for example. So that's why I'm highlighting this. So maybe there might be some, I don't know, dual browser, dual speaker set thing is happening, and yeah. But in the end, I think it is warranted to try this, and I would support a IETF virtual meeting scheduled session.
But then again, if we don't have, as Jim said, if we don't have a agenda work to discuss, then there is really no point in having the meeting.
Right. Well, as things stand, that agenda, if we had to set that agenda right now, that agenda would be finalizing our charter. So I think we do have work. And it's easy to cancel a meeting after it's scheduled. It's harder to schedule a meeting if it's not been scheduled.
Yes, exactly that. Try the effort and maybe face reality afterwards. That is, I think, a good idea. Also, yes, if there's no agenda, I think the charter is no, actually not. We have discussed a lot of important things today. So contract signature and the likes. And so I think there is enough charter for a small meeting. That's not the big time slot, but the typical time slot. And I would, again, support this.
I mean, we might be done with the charter by then. You don't think so?
It's entirely Go ahead, Hank. Sorry about that.
No problem at all. I am the pessimist here. So I like to hear notions like, yeah, we done that, and that's fine. It would be excellent, actually, you know. But people look at things, and as was highlighted already before, the meeting might have times 5 higher attendance, and then people look again at the current state. So maybe messages thrown on the list, maybe messages to review charters are only acknowledged and then actually received at the virtual interim meeting where awareness is raised. So that's just I don't know, daily based facts. But if you're honest, I think a meeting is a good converging point. So again, that's why I highlighted the question initially. I think this is helpful, and yes, you might have a very stable thing, and it might be ripped apart if more people look at it.
So I'm a little bit confused here. The agenda for today, the second bullet is finalizing charter. And still, we think we're going to have that until still talk about in the IETF 109.
So first of all, we cannot finalize it when we are asked to add a addition, I think.
No, I agree. It seemed like the ambition was to get ready a little bit before.
Sometimes chairs are very optimistic and corrections happen. I believe that's what happened this time. So at least what I'm hearing here and from what we've received through email, is a preference to just stick with interims. But what we're hearing here is let's schedule the meeting, and if we don't need it, we can cancel it later, but let's schedule it. If we do, so regardless of whether, so even with scheduling it, what do we want to do for interims between now and IETF 109 in early November?
Finalize the chart.
Okay. Do we want to do that with interims, or do we want to stick with live communication until the meeting to see how far we get? Just note that the soonest I think we can schedule another interim is no sooner than 2 weeks from today.
In Jabber, Michael suggested once a month.
Okay.
Which seems like a reasonable interval for now.
Okay. Any objections to that? Okay, so the chairs will get something scheduled definitely for October. The soonest that we can fit a slot into. Ivo and I will talk about it and see where we can get that done. We will schedule for 109 and also look into scheduling for through until at least IETF 110 for interims. Does that sound reasonable?
Also, what would be the time for the interim? Is the same time good for you?
I think that's a question for people here.
The time is very good.
Okay, then we'll stick with we'll assume this time. We will send out a note to the list on this, but we are going to get this scheduled before the next week starts. At least October schedule before next week starts. Because we are running out of time. All right. With that, is there any other business anyone wants to discuss? We've got 10 minutes scheduled. I'll take the silence as a no. So I think that means that we are wrapped. We have a number of action items. We'll get started. We'll get these things posted and.
Yeah, I have one suggestion.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. So we already have a text now, a proposed text by John. So can we quickly go through it? I mean, we have most people here, so at least we can make some consensus if we need to make any changes in the proposed text. It's very short. I just saw John email.
Okay. One moment.
You need to put it up on the screen because I haven't seen it yet.
That's what I'm trying to work on right now.
Okay.
Come on. Once I see.
I posted it in the WebEx chat.
Okay. There we go. I think this is the text that we're talking about.
Yes.
You make it bigger so I can read it.
Is this better?
Only using up about 1/4 of your real estate on the screen.
Of course it is. All right.
If you increase the window size, yeah.
There we go. Better?
Much
Good.
better.
Well, now that you're sending more pixels, so it winds up smaller on my screen. Whereas I could have zoomed, now I can't zoom it very well. I'll go find the original
is
message.
fine.
It's fine.
This is fine.
Okay, so basically have the proposed additions. Any comments from those here? We've got this here. We've got the link posted in the WebEx chat. It's on the mailing list. I think we've got a few places you can find it.
I just posted on the chat. It should be 802.1 AR, not 802.11 AR. Other than that, I like the additions.
Any other comments?
No objection to these changes.
Okay, we will still confirm this on the list. The chairs will at least post a reply to you, John, to try to call more attention to it. And then, is there any other business? Okay, not hearing any calls. I think we can call today's meeting. Thank you all for attending. We will get minutes posted once we have the recording. And we will start working through the chair. The chairs will have a short discussion. We'll start working through our list of items, actions from this meeting. All right, thank you all. I'm ending the recording now.